Hello, BookTube. Well, it's Vlogmas Day 2. And here on Day 2, only 2 days in, I am already realizing the trouble with Vlogmas, if you are me. And that is that vlogging just in general, relies on variety. And there's no variety in my life. None whatsoever. Vlogging relies on the vlogger being able to lift the curtain and show you, the viewers, fascinating corners of their life. And my life doesn't have any fascinating corners. What you see several times every day on my normal BookTube videos of me sitting in a book-lined little room is what you get. That is mostly what I do. And this presents me with a problem, because only, I think we'll admit, a loser would stop Vlogmas on Day 2. So instead, I have a choice. I can either pack up and go home and just admit that I do not have a vlogging lifestyle, or I can take this to the next level. And I've decided I'm going to try and do that because I have a captive audience and plenty of time on my hands. So today we are back in Mordor. We are back in this hutch that's off the wall of one room here at Hyde Cottage that is just stuffed full of miscellaneous books. And I'm going to go through a pile of those books, and I will come back to this hutch a few times during Vlogmas. But the only reason that I'm resorting to this on Day 2 is because it's black as pitch and pouring rain outside in Boston today, which means that it's not a vlogging day to do anything else. Because everything that happens here at Hyde Cottage, almost everything, is exactly what you see every day on BookTube. It's book and writing related, or it's playing with Frida, and I don't know how interesting that would be to even see. I mean, she and I play all the time. But it's in spurts, so that's the reason that we're doing Mordor today, and we'll do Mordor in the rest of Vlogmas, because I'm sure that it's going to be pouring rain and black as pitch many, many, many of the 25 days of Vlogmas. I'm sure that it is. The weather forecast right now for Boston is predicting uninterrupted sunlight from Monday until further notice, from Monday until as far out as any of the weather models can resolve the image. And I don't believe that for a minute. I think that means we will have a sunny Monday, and then it will cloud up and be cold and rainy for the rest of the week. But if the weather forecasts are correct, then I will have outdoor vlogging weather. And then the only obstacle will be, do I have the nerve to pull out a camera and start talking to it in public? I've done that before, and it felt weird. But I gather from the vloggers that I've been watching the last day during my research that it gets easier. That it starts to feel more natural. So, one way or another, today is certainly not vlogging weather. I can barely get my little schnauzer outside with, you know, all the promises in the world. It is not, we just came back in, and it wasn't even actually raining. It was a slight window in the downpour, and she still didn't want to go out because there was rain on the ground. So, we're not doing that today. So we're going to be in Mordor today. Now, for those of you who are new, there are a lot of you, probably, oh God, 2,000 of you probably, who are here, who have arrived at this channel since the last time that I did any kind of tour in this little hutch. So let me explain. I refer to it as the Kingdom of Mordor because it's dark and it's recessed and it's an enemy to the forces of light. I don't know if I can make you see here. It's 3 shelves. It used to be 3. The one that was right here snapped and broke on camera. So it's 3 shelves recessed off the wall in what what used to be a closet or a doorway to another room, and it's got shelves recessed in. It's clearly, in a normal household, it would clearly be meant for maybe, I don't know, China or something like that, but instead, in this house, it has naturally filled with books, and I don't like that. One of the household rules, one of Steve's household rules that I have figured out in the time that I have been here at Hyde Cottage, that I didn't really clearly know before, except when I was traveling, is that storage space breeds junk, just as surely as rotting meat breeds maggots. I've heard there's some scientific talk that there might be some other explanation for what's going on there, but I don't believe it. I don't keep up with all the news. Storage space breeds junk. The more places you have to pile miscellaneous crap, the more you will do that. And hence the more miscellaneous crap you will accumulate. And there is no exception to that rule. I learned that vividly with my little book room, the place where I usually film videos. The place where I usually film videos is a square. But off of one side, like the lid of Oklahoma here in the United States, off of one side, running all the way underneath the back staircase of this house, is a big walk-in closet. It's 8 feet tall, it's 5 feet wide, and it goes the whole length of the back half of the house, all the way in. And that, the whole time that I've been here, that closet has ebbed and flowed. It has filled with junk, emptied with junk, filled with junk, emptied with junk. And then one day I decided, you know, if I close that closet off completely, if I close, it has a door. If I closed the door and made the room just a square, then I could line it with bookshelves and just forget about the junk in that closet. So I pulled everything away from the entrance to the closet, and I spent an entire afternoon clearing it out so that it was empty. And I ended up throwing out a huge amount, probably 85% of the stuff that I cleared out of that closet, on the simple understanding that if it had been walled up or blocked off in that closet for years without me ever feeling like even the slightest hint of going to look for it, then I don't need it. Then there's no reason to keep it. It's a perfect demonstration that I'm right in the fact that I have not given a second thought to any of those piles, garbage bags of junk that I threw out since I did that. And then I walled off that closet and have been using that room ever since without a single twinge of ever even thinking about the closet, much less actually needing it. I firmly believe that that is true with all storage space. That, at least for me, that if I have a miscellaneous place where I can pile stuff, I will do that, and that if I clear it out, repurpose it or wall it off, and throw away the stuff that accumulated in it, I'll be none the worse for it. Now, it's different when the stuff is books. I admit that. That's different. But even so, we see unhaulings on BookTube all the time. All of us, I believe, all of us with maybe a tiny handful of exceptions that I can think of, all of us have books that are just junk, that are just hanging around. We're never going to touch them. We're never going to read them. We just haven't bothered to get rid of them. Even I have that. And I have the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston, which will not only buy anything that I want to sell them, but will come and box it for me. And it'll be old friends that come to box it. So I have no excuse whatsoever. And I am going to address that in 2019. There are 3 places here in Hyde Cottage where junk can accumulate. And I'm going to blast all 3 of them straight into the sunlight. And foremost among them is Mordor. And you know what I realized the other day? I had an amazing bolt of recognition. Books accumulate in here, and we're going to go through a stack of them. And then they deaccumulate, and then they accumulate again. It changes all the time. And I realized one of the reasons why that is because this right here, if this were just built-in bookshelves flush with the wall, no recess, then I wouldn't fill it with junk. I would fill it with books, and that would be that. But instead, it's recessed in, and there's a whole bunch of what looks like open space. Very bad. So, as you can see, when I turn the camera around here, this is just a disaster. It is just books piled everywhere in there. That is not going to stay true. I am going to rip this to shreds. I'm going to throw away, or not throw away, but sell to the Brattle probably, I don't know, well, 85 to 90% of what's in here. I no longer want to use this space for books at all. I have determined that if I put any books in here, I will just start to pile books in here. So I'm either going to clear it out completely and then put a drape over it so that I can't even see it, or I'm going to clear it out completely and put other stuff in here. Unless I decide to maybe put books in here in a nice, orderly way. But one way or another, we're going to go through a stack of the miscellaneous books that are in here. And those of you who have stuck around and watched my last Mordor shelf tours, you'll notice a lot of differences because things change here all the time. So let's do the first one. What is this first one here? So we're just going to do one stack. Okay, all right. This is a thin book from a few years ago. This is by Nathaniel Philbrick, who did The Heart of the Sea, and he just recently did The Eye of the Hurricane. And this is Why Read Moby Dick? A little hardcover, naked hardcover of Why Read Moby Dick, which is just him talking about Moby Dick. An extremely enjoyable little book, but again, there's a shelf for this sort of thing, and this isn't it. This shouldn't be here. If I'm going to keep it, it shouldn't be here. What's this next? Oh, okay. All right, this is in a box. I didn't even bother to open it and read it. This is by, I don't know. The author's name is not on the cover. The book is called The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, and the advance copy came in a box with a pin and some stitching thread that has since pulled off. The stitching thread used to be threaded through the needle there, and I thought that was really neat. I thought that was a really macabre way to package a book about sewing up a body. But I didn't read the book, and I'm not going to read the book. And so anyway, we won't go through that refrain all the time. What is this next one here? Okay, this is what is called an illustrated novella by Garth Risk Hallberg, the guy who did City on Fire, and this is the field guide to the North American family, and it's not formal prose. It's just you've got a page for holidays, you've got a page for material, always with photos on facing pages. You've got a page for maturity. So I wouldn't call it a novella. I don't know what I would call it. I found it. Oh, still has a sheet in it. Okay, this is from October of 2017. It's probably sat here that whole time. I found it diverting, but not keepable. And yet, I've kept it. Let's see. Okay, this is an advance copy of Dan Emmett's I Am a Secret Service Agent. This is a young adult book, book about what the life of a Secret Service agent is like. What they do, what the responsibilities are, that sort of thing. And I was glad to get this. This came out, was it last year? Did this come out last year? Let's see. Yes, this came out in June of last year. I was glad to get it because I volunteer time with children here in Boston. And I brought this. I read some chunks of it. I talked to them about it. They've all heard about Secret Service. I talked to them about that. It's a favorite subject of mine. So this book, not to be too utilitarian about it, but it served its purpose. I will never use it again. I will never read it again. Let's see, this next one. Okay. All right, this is by Lewis Crompton. This is a fantastic book. Should not be here. There's a place for this. This is Byron and Greek Love. And it's a whole book about the subject of Byron's homosexuality. And not just his homosexuality, what little we can piece together of it. He destroyed a huge amount of his own documents. A lot of people in his time destroyed huge amounts of incriminating documents. A lot of memoirs were destroyed, including his own. So we don't know as much as we wish we did. I maintain, along with a handful of other Byron fanatics and a bunch of Byron scholars, I maintain that it was his homosexuality, not his relationship with his half-sister, that created the scandal that drove him out of England. I think that was what was going to blow. One way or another, it's a fascinating subject. This author reads through the work, studies homophobia in the era and all of its manifestations, and absolutely, it's an indispensable Byron book to have, which means it shouldn't be here. It should be with my Byron books. So, what it's doing here, I have no idea. Let's see. What this is. Oh, okay. All right. This is about Sir Edward Grey of Fallodon. I think he's fantastic. I love him as a writer. I've read his letters and his memoirs and his little keepsake books. And because the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston is an endless supply of new and old books of all kinds, I've found Grey books at the Brattle, and I have hauled them on this channel and talked about him. And one time when I did that, Matt and Zoe Wall of Paperback Junkie, of the BookTube channel Paperback Junkie, just asked me if I had a copy of this. It's Roger Humphrey's historical novel Fallodon, which is it's a what-if story of what if. I mean, Edward Grey was a moving force in British politics for a long time, an instrumental person, especially in the events surrounding World War I. And this novel posits what would happen not only to him but to the world if he hadn't been that, if he hadn't been able to do that. And they thought it might interest me, and it did. I was very happy to. It's a perfect example of just a friendly network of, hey, do you have this? Oh, do you have this? Oh, I want that. Oh, can I send you this? That we have developed here on BookTube that I just love. That's one of the aspects of BookTube that I love. And so here it is. But It's a historical novel. So not to beat a dead horse, but they're all historical fiction ought to be in one place, and this ought to be there. Let's see, what is this? Oh, okay, great. We've seen this before. This is edited by Jeff Wisner, and this is Thoreau's Animals, his follow-up to Thoreau's Plants, where he goes through all of Thoreau's writings and talks about the individual entries that deal with animals. And the thing that sold it for me is this has original artwork that is just wonderful. Don't think I've seen either of those volumes in paperback. But here's a paperback. What is this? Oh, okay, this is by Jay Asher and Jessica Freeberg. This is, and it's illustrated by Jeff Stokely. This is a YA graphic novel of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, a retelling of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, with really, really neat artwork in which the Pied Piper is a super hottie, and in which his mesmeric ability is done really well. It's really effective. I liked it. I'm not gonna belabor the obvious. You can already see it coming, right? This is a graphic novel. So it doesn't belong with any of these things. None of these things belong with any of the other things. What is this? Oh, great. All right. This is Vyd Reader by Robert Gottlieb. This is his long-awaited memoir about his eternity in the publishing industry that has lots and lots of polish anecdotes, lots and lots of fun stuff. Some of it is tendentious. Some of it is a little bit, the term we have now, the great 21st century term we have now, is humble bragging. And I really enjoyed it. I read it, I reread it, I took notes, I reviewed it, and it's a memoir, so it belongs with biographies. And then, well, the last thing here is big. What is this? Oh, okay, great. All right, this is the old Barnes & Noble edition of Moby Dick with, hey, let me see if I can show you. This has Mark Summers' illustration, so you have the frontispiece is a black and white picture of Moby Dick. Oh, not of Moby Dick, not of Moby Dick, but of Herman Melville. But the book also has color photographs put throughout, and I love this. Is of course, because it's here at Hyde Cottage. There's a beagle for a bookmark. That is Baby. Oh, that is Baby. Baby had another name, but I just called her Baby forever and ever. She was a good girl, very patient, very loving, this is one of my favorite Moby Dick editions. I absolutely love it, and as you can tell, I don't know if you can see it very clearly in this pitch black rainy light, but this thing has been used very badly. I have read it and reread it, read chunks of it many, many times. And I mentioned, again, the same thing as with Fallodon, I mentioned on this channel once, years ago, that this was my favorite edition and that I wish I had a clean copy of it, and one of you sent me a clean copy. Because that's what we do. We hear things like that, we make a mental note of it, and if it's convenient and we happen to have a little extra money for shipping, we go ahead and do it. I love that. Absolutely love it. And now that I have the new copy, what I ought to do, since this thing can't take many more readings, what I ought to do is shift all of the stuff that's in here to the new copy, and then just donate this. That's what I ought to do. I don't need 2 copies of this, but I have nevertheless kept it. And it's here with the first book that we saw, which was Why Read Moby Dick. They're here together. They even look similar. But in between was this gigantic sandwich of all these miscellaneous things. So that is one pile from the dark depths of Mordor. And we will return here a few times in the course of Vlogmas. But I am determined that if tomorrow, Monday, day 3 of Vlogmas, is bright and sunny, I am determined to film something outside. I don't know what, because my outside-the-house activities are just as boring as my inside-the-house activities, but I will find something. Something, and I will share it with you. So I'll wrap this up, but I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.